Found throughout tomb worlds and Necron spacecraft, where automated routines compel them to break down damaged matter of all kinds with their entropic mandibles. They feed on organic and non-organic matter alike, converting it into energy which is rerouted into repair protocols. I guess it must be time to put on some tunes and snip some sprues. Welcome to Midlife Crisis. Today I'm going to take a look at Necron Canoptek Scarab Swarms. These are the miniatures that came from the Indomitus box set, but these are the same Scarab Swarms which come with all of the current Necron sets that Games Workshop produced. Really nice sculpt on these models. A few of them have got some rocky bases, and one of them is just straight onto the base without the rocks. What I'm going to do is start off by painting the rocks first, and then we'll paint the scarabs separately. As I mentioned on the last video, I'm not going to do any basing on these yet. I've decided on like a sandy scheme for the bases, but we'll get to doing these when the time's right. So these are the two little rock bases for the miniature, and what I thought I'd do is start off, although everything's been sprayed with Leadbelcher as part of the undercoat, I'm going to start off by just painting these with Corvus black just to give me a nice dark background. Yeah, starting to use quite a bit of Corvus black with this colour scheme, finding it quite a nice colour, very sort of chalky in look and a little bit chalky in texture. Finding it's quite translucent, and I've had a lot of the Leadbelcher being visible through the paint, so it's worth giving these a couple of coats. Certainly the pot I've got at the moment, I'm able to use it straight from the pot. Next I'm just going to dry brush these, and I start off with Mornfang brown to try and put some of the edges on those rocks. With dry brushing, left a fair bit of paint still on the brush, just making sure I'm going all over in various directions. I'm giving it a second dry brush, this time using Avaland Sunset. Following that, just giving it a really liberal wash of Agrax Earthshade to just bring the whole miniature together, so that'll just pull in nicely in all the cracks and recesses, and also just make those shade transfers look a little bit more natural. Onto the Necron Canoptek Scarabs themselves. The first thing that I wanted to do was to just give the whole set a coating of Nuln Oil as a wash. I've done about a 50-50 mix here with Nuln Oil and the Lahmian Medium. It's going to give me a good coverage, but not stick too much across all the areas. So I'm just really covering the whole miniature. Most of this is going to be painted over anyway, but it just means that it gives me a head start shading across them. I was trying to get the shade to set nicely in all the recesses, and especially on the bodies of the scarabs, without leaving too much of the outer detail covered. To make these scarabs more in line with the Nuln dynasty as I painted the Necron Warriors, I decided to paint all of the, I guess this is carapace, the shell of the scarab, whatever you want to call it, using a slightly thinned down Thousand Suns blue. Really nice colour and a really nice effect sitting on top of the Nuln Oil wash. Tried to take special care not to fill in those chips, so that actually looks like the metal shining through underneath. Following that, I painted in the bases of all of the scarabs using Retribution armour, giving that lovely bright gold colour that fits so well within the Nuln dynasty theme. But that's really the basics of the colours now done. So I just gave a wash of a 2-to-1 mix of Agrax Earthshade. It just gives that sort of more earthy tones and weathered look. So whereas the Nuln Oil is a very black wash, the Agrax Earthshade is more sort of brown and gives a lot more of that sort of weathered appearance rather than just sort of an oily metal look. Trying to be careful to avoid the areas that had already been washed with the Nuln Oil. time to start on what for me is becoming quite a favourite part of painting these models, and that's doing the glowing areas, the green glowing orbs on these power packs. Now, tried really carefully to get the orbs and also just to do a slight bit of highlighting literally just on the very edge, and this is just so that as I put on the different layers of the glowing green colours, it will just show that light spilling out. I did put in a bit too much white in a few of them, so I just went back after I'd finished applying it all and just added a little bit of Nuln Oil back into those recesses, and that just darkened it back down again, so fairly easy just to correct any mistakes that way. Then used a glaze with the good old Tesseract Glow to put that initial translucent green, that neon green look on the glowing orbs. I also put a single white dot onto each of the eyes in the centre of the faces of the scarabs, which I also added a bit of a green to, and just edged all of the miniatures. So I just made sure I caught all of those details as I'd gone on. Okay, with that done, I just put a small wash of Biel-Tan Green as a shade in the recesses, trying to fill the gaps up with that sort of much darker green, trying to show a deeper glow happening inside, but avoiding the very tops of the glowing orbs to still allow the Tesseract Glow to do the majority of the work on the very tips there. Really liking how this effect is starting to come together, and I think the more I'm doing it, the better it I feel I'm getting, and really pleased with the results. Just wanted to pick out a few of the details, so going back to the original Thousand Suns Below, I just did a very slight bit of edge highlighting just on the very tips of the carapace, just to try and give a bit of an impression, a bit of light glinting off it. Very, very subtle effect after it dried, but looks quite nice, I think. So just put a very faint layer of Moot Green just around the glowing orbs, just to give it a bit more definition. I really like the way as this paint dries, it's very, very translucent. It doesn't need much on it, but it just makes that green pop a little bit more. But you can still see the luminescence of the Tesseract Glow underneath it. Find it really helpful using one of these citadel painting handles to hold the miniatures as I paint them. I just find that it means I can get a better grip on them. And as a final touch, I just decided to put a small dot of Corax White just in the centre of the orbs, just to reinforce that colour transition and help with that glowing effect. And there we have it, our Canoptek Scarab Swarms completed. I really enjoyed getting that glowing effect to really sort of jump on the miniatures. I think that's a new technique that I'm starting to learn. Really liking the effect. Just looking at them now, I think maybe a slight highlight on the legs just to pick those silvers out, and maybe a slightly lighter blue edge highlighting would be something I'd consider if I do these again in the future. But overall, very satisfying for an evening. It didn't take long at all, not overly complicated, but a great effect. For now, really happy for these to be classed as tabletop ready and will look nice as part of my ongoing army. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, feel free to leave comments below, and if you want to see more of my painting videos as I work my way through the Indomitus box set, please hit that subscribe button. Bye for now.